profile picture and I took the microphone out. I'm not saying that you should stop these spaces once you start taking more pictures, but if it's a tool that's going to help you get there, I fully support it. And then as far as calling me a painter, my goodness, don't do that. It's such a disservice to people who actually have skills in the trade. I'm just now, let's say, getting past uh, the 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 image of the sun the with the shoreline, and I mean finger painting, like with my toddlers, and that's about the extent of it. Um, but I do enjoy like the tranquility and the idea of being able to create. Like I said, for me, you want to call me from the music side, you can call me whatever you want. But from painting, I'm just laughingly correcting you that I'm definitely not a painter. But I do love
Brian, can
I
I
love
can I
doing it.
interject?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interject, but don't discredit that, because to be honest with you, I mean, we've all seen the elephant that paints something because it's bored or whatever, and it becomes a $15,000, auctioned off painting or something of that sort. So
Wait, are you calling me fat, Darby? Is that where we're going with this?
no, no, I haven't. I didn't even. That didn't even come into my mind. Of course not, you silly. That, if anything, I was thinking of the finger painting part. Those finger painting ones, they could be very good, and they could be good sellers because it isn't really a tapped market in terms of the branding, and it's not really something, but everybody can relate to it. The little hand, the hand um, uh, painted one with the different fingers, and it looks like a turkey and stuff like that. I mean, I used that actually as one of my flyers one time. And I thought that went over really well for the Thanksgiving one. So don't discredit that. If you have your kids finger painting, or even if the dog is doing finger painting, or I mean, paw painting, as I want to call it, those things can sell. And especially, it only takes one person to say, I really see the value in this, and I really see the image here, and it, you know um
I
especially
want to
in
jump in. Can I jump in, Darby?
yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
I'm sorry. But you made me think of something, and you always make me think of stuff and then I forget. So I want to just like throw it in there, because I think this ties into social media too. When you create, we're as creators or artists or whatever you want to call yourselves, that personal element is an important part of the work you create. So it could be an art piece, or it could be something, your content you're creating on social media, right? So it's that personal element that is like the little secret sauce. So even if is something that you look at and you're like, oh, no one's going to want this, maybe you don't want to sell it, or you just want to give it to friends or family, but the more personal it is, I think the better, in a way, but while still being, something that has some value. Anyway, I just wanted to add
That's
that. Sorry, Darby.
yeah, and I do a mean every like November, October, November. I do a really mean hand turkey thing. I mean,
Oh yeah.
I'm actually getting pretty legit at that, not for nothing. So when that comes around again in a couple months, I'll be crushing it. I'll send it to you guys.
All right,
Darby, I
good,
love
good.
that
And
you use that as an ad.
yeah, Darby, that's so cool. Like, and encouraging kids to do stuff too. Cause like you can say, oh, my art's no good or whatever, but like it's, relatable and can get children into artwork. If it's something that's attainable. And one of my favorite categories of artwork throughout history is folk art, early Americana folk art, which many people would say is very simple, and probably at the time they didn't think much of it, but it's something that really just says the essence of the time period it was. So I'm always encouraging, don't let your talents be undervalued wherever you're at in your journey on that. But we've got some wonderful people joining. Thank you so much for coming to the space. Lovely to see you all. Some wonderful people here. And anyone who wants to share something they're working on, you're more than welcome to come up and speak about it. If you don't want to speak about it, that's what the purple pill is for. We want you to share what you're working on, what you're doing, what you're creating. If you want to share it down there for the rest of the people who are here and for anyone who listens to the replay, that is for that. So feel free to promote yourselves. And then also you can come up here and do it if you want to as well. And so we're going to just discuss a little bit here, a little more about what we're talking about. And then I'm going to get into some stuff with Etsy, which I think is very important for anyone creating artwork or wanting to sell online needs to know about. So we'll get into that in a minute. Go ahead, Brian.
Oh, that might have been what I was just going to ask. I was going to ask you guys, like, Kate, you touched on it. Is it because, like, what is your opinion? I'm trying to think of how to ask this question. What is your opinion on art from like a passion perspective, and then someone who tries to make a business out of their art? Um, does that tend to dissuade people from from the authenticity or the creativity of the thing that they love to do when you try to make a business out of it and you make it super challenging? Because now you need to earn on it and so on. I don't know. I haven't gone through that, but I'm curious what you guys think about that.
Oh yeah, that's a tough one because it so depends on what people are working on. Like for me in the photography world, like, yes, there's things that I can create for myself as art. And then there's also creating for the client. And that's, my artistic eye brought into the equation, but it's for the client in the end. And then as for people who create other things, it's a little different dynamic, but probably a lot the same. And you have to decide, you almost have to make a decision like, okay, am I going to be doing work for other people and then taking that money to create my personal work or my own expression? Or am I just going to keep it 100% me, my integrity? I'm not making anything for someone else. And if people like it, they can take it or leave it. And, both of these are possible. Some combination of the two. I don't know, Darby, what do you think on this?
Great question. I actually I was trying to find the turkey and I couldn't find it, so I've got to pull it up from online, I guess. So my bad. Yeah, I think the diversity that you're talking about is really crucial. I think, yeah, when you take your perspective, which is art is a perspective, when you take your perspective and you put it on display, listen to all of the feedback that people hear and see. I mean, we've all seen those posts from, several people that say, they'll show a cloud in the sky and say, your left brain will see an elephant, and your right brain will see a flower. And yet, of course, you're seeing neither one, because it's meant to kind of bait you into seeing it and kind of seeing what you see. And that's a good thing. It's all about perspective. And we've shared we've shared perspective versus perception as a topic before, and let me tell you what, it's a tough one because people get very passionate about it. But yeah, art is a perspective, and just like the old saying, one man's trash is another man's treasure. Same thing. Look at all the glass that washes up on shore. People take that sea glass and they make things out of it or use it for tiles, and they create tiles out of it or make pictures out of it. I've even seen stained glass items out of it. But yeah, it's such a neat thing to allow our brain to take things to another level. It's kind of like cooking, when you're recreating a typical uh, egg foo young into something else, but yet it tastes like an egg foo young. You're changing the mindset on the typical plate dish of egg foo young into something totally different.
And then
Darby,
you yeah,
always blow my mind. Sorry, but I have to, because you didn't say like your typical cheeseburger or your typical like pasta dish. Like you literally went to egg foo young as like your typical thing that you're remastering, which I just think is amazing.
Yeah, I try to delve into other things, because I want to make sure you have a visual, and I want to make sure
Love
that,
it.
yeah, I
And I'm
try.
hungry now. So, but I think a point too, this is making me the connection of like, okay, the home cook versus the professional chef. At what point does it change from just cooking for your family to I'm selling a meal that's a beautiful dish, and that you can translate that to like arts as well. And we've got Aura up here. Welcome. Thanks so much for joining us up on stage. What would you like to add?
Oh, good morning, Kate. And mine actually is a food related thing. So I've had the privilege of being friends with many amazing artists who were able to live off of revenue that they generated from their art. Unfortunately, most of the art was not their passion. It was what they call pot boilers. And so, like I knew this amazing sculptor, and the way he paid his bills was by making salmon art for malls and roadsides. Nothing ethically, he had no problem with making salmon, so he didn't feel like he was selling out in that regard, but he felt like he was doing something he loved and making money for it. And I think that that's a really important thing for artists to take with them, because not that many artists are discovered and get huge while they're still alive. So I feel it's better to eat today than to, feast after I'm dead.
Well, and that's
Thank
why
you,
they call
Kate.
them starving artists, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So such a great point. Yeah. There is a compromise you have to make. You have to decide, is this just going to be a hobby and I'm going to work some 9 to 5 and give my life away in that regard? Or am I going to take this professionally and decide to create work for clients and kind of give away your soul in that regard? It's a choice you have to make, unfortunately. And then hopefully, yeah, you can make a living off of it and break through.
Well, and nobody should ever be afraid to take that risk, because it's not like, to be honest with you, I'm in a situation where my employment is wavering. I haven't been paid in a year, and it's because of being hurt on the job. And what typically happens is they wean you out because they don't want you involved in a lawsuit. So I'm struggling. And yet at the same time, on the back end, I've always made earrings, and I've always made I've always utilized my gifts for bringing people together in unity, and helping them build more of a consciousness about how great they are. So I take these vendors and I talk to them, and I find out where their passion is. And believe me, I've helped rebrand people, and I've helped to bring people more to their core of what their brand is when they were really scattered and didn't know themselves, and told them to focus on that until they built something around that. And it's worked. So, in terms of risk assessing my situation, um, yeah, it's scary. It's scary as hell. The fact that I have no income coming in other than the events. And, even then, I haven't been able to work on them like I wanted to, but they're all covered in terms of advertising and everything else. People have heard about our events for 4 years. So, that, and I constantly am hammering it into people's heads online and locally and in the community, so that people know that I am all about the markets, and am all about being a vendor myself. And I want that. But what we have to remember is, in any big decision that is involving your livelihood and your lifestyle, always do a risk assessment. You always should be evaluating, where is the need and where is the customer? How do I reach the customer? How do I build my brand to include the customer?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
and
that's a good point. Oh,
yeah,
that's a
if you
good
haven't done
little
all those
gem there, Dar.
things, yeah, if you haven't done all those things, you're really not doing an assessment, or even a type of random sample to find out. And that's where a lot of people fail. Not to mention, most artists don't know how to network themselves.
Yeah,
That's a skill. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is a great segue into what I wanted to just talk about and just inform people about what's going on at Etsy, because this is such a platform that a lot of people sell their work on, be it art or making something, building something. And what they've just announced is something very similar to Amazon Prime. There's no way to really um, put it another way to make it clear, but it's called Etsy Insider, and it's just a beta program. Like, this isn't. I don't think they've publicly announced it. Really, they've put it into the forums that are for the seller network, but it is a public link, and I have it available up in my post in the nest there in the Jumbotron. So if you want to look at it yourself, you can go look at it. And what they're going to do is test with some US buyers in September, the ability to purchase an annual or seasonal membership where they get access to benefits. And basically the main benefit is going to be free US domestic shipping. Now, anyone who sells on Etsy understands that, the seller is the one paying for shipping, whether the customer pays for it or not. You still have to buy that shipping label, however you ship things. So how this is going to work, they go into some of the Q&A and everything, but this is something to look at. And what I really found this interesting was that, Etsy's kind of flailing right now because they were doing so well during the pandemic, and they've kind of spiraled downhill a little bit recently. And so this is, to me, like a sign that they're really trying anything. But it could work. But Amazon is slowly winding down their Prime benefits as far as shipping goes. So this was very interesting to me, and I'd love to know if anyone has any thoughts on this or wants to chime in. Please request to speak if you have, if you sell on Etsy or would like to dig into this more. But I kind of want to just put this out as like a public service announcement that if you sell on Etsy, you want to look into this and get all the details, because this is going to start in September. Yeah, so they're gonna. I don't know. It's confusing to me because it's like, Etsy's going to cover that shipping cost somehow.
Well, are they losing business? Is that what's going on? Or, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
maybe. Okay. All right. That's a shame, because I've heard that they're a little costly when it comes to the fees, but I don't know. I've never been on Etsy myself.
Yeah, the fees are, pretty outrageous, but if you are selling on a marketplace, the fees are part of the deal. So if you're selling on your own website, you don't have to pay those fees, but you don't have the reach. So Etsy has the reach. You get to show up in their search results, and if they find a product that you put out to be interesting, they'll market you a little bit. They'll promote. If someone favorites one of your items, they'll email the people that favorite stuff to kind of build your business that way. So you are getting a little bit of benefit for being on the platform. And they also take care of a lot of the tax situation, which can be very complex and complicated for people. So they help collect sales taxes and other VAT taxes and things like that if you're selling around the world. So they do a lot to help simplify that process and make it easier for people. But yes, the fees are, I think it's 6.5% is just their transaction fee. That doesn't count the other fees that are involved as far as processing credit cards and stuff like that. So that's coming off of every sale you make, which is tough when you're trying to run coupons and discounts, and then you have to worry about these fees. So
well,
yeah.
and that's a very good point. The couponing and discounting thing, you shouldn't really do that anyway, unless they reach a certain level, unless there's a tier. It's kind of like when I came to X, when I came to Twitter a long time ago, all I did was post, and I didn't make it a daily routine. I just did it for the fun of it. But when X became the brand, and when Elon purchased it, my first thought was, okay, I can promote my brand from here, and I can sell my brand I could redirect back to my website But at the same time, I don't sell off of my website, and I don't do that for a purpose. Maryland, which is where I am, they specifically ask you when you're receiving a seller's license, whether you're selling online or not. And that's something to be considered. Most people don't know that. You have to apply for a sell license or a sales and use tax license because you're supposed to be collecting taxes for the state when you do it. And a lot of
Yes,
people,
this is a big one. We'll get into this. You can finish your thought, Darby. I just want to
yeah,
get into this in a little bit.
yeah, that's a thing. So Etsy, on the other hand, would be one of those places that you're, and really essentially, don't forget those fees that you're paying out, you can write off, I'm sure. But you would have to check with your accountant first because I don't want to give you financial advice. But in saying that, the subscription fee that's on here, um, if I ever get my subscription fee approved after a year, um, that fee, what I was going to do is use that for a monthly shipping cost. So if somebody would pay me, instead of doing a newsletter like everybody does, I was trying to go different because nobody wants to see the same old thing. So I was figuring it on a different perspective, and I was trying to make that subscription fee be my shipping. So if somebody was interested in buying earrings, I could show them the panels of earrings on a regular basis. And whichever ones they decided they wanted, I would ship to them for free with that $7 monthly fee. That way, at least it would, the $7 would cover me on the first shipping or however many, but they could make as many as they wanted after that for free. And, and then order as much as they want, so that's how I was going to do it. But I was told initially that that's not how they did things here. And then the more that I thought about it, it made sense because to sell on this space, to sell on X, they would have to account for our sales and be able to say, hey, this is not an Etsy. This is not a selling platform per se. It is, but it's not. So I get it. I just don't know where they stand on all that. And that's probably what the holdup is for my subscription button, if that makes sense.
No, I've had my subscription request up since November is when I applied. So I wouldn't take it personal at how they decide who gets the subscription.
Oh, no. I didn't take
Yeah.
it personal, but I think there's more
No, I know.
involved in mine than most people's. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it was just, because it's a different concept, which I think is pretty cool way to just think about subscription models and maybe trying something different with it.
Yeah, you
And
have to be able to pivot. They have to be able to pivot and think about other options. I mean, in order to build more funds on the site. So, if that's a way of building more or branding me more and diversifying me a little bit in different directions, it's only going to improve X.
Yeah, I saw something was going around. Some people use the job hiring feature, so you can put on your profile. I think if you're a premium member, you can put on your profile like jobs that you are hiring for, but people were just changing it to whatever they're selling. So like their subscription to their newsletter or to like a digital product on Gumroad or whatever it was. And so you get the little showcase below your profile. And if you do have a business profile on here, I can't remember the exact name of it, if it's called professional or business profile, you can get that little carousel right below your profile of your products, and you display a picture, the title of the product and the price, and then that is a link that goes to wherever you're selling that. So it could be a link to your Etsy item, it could be a link to Venmo that so someone could purchase the item, or it could be to your website to buy the item, so that's another option for people if they want to try and sell on X. You can kind of get a little experimental with it. And also, I always say, don't be afraid to put a link in a post. I know everyone's like, oh, algorithm. Look, what point is there to getting a viral post if no one can buy what they're seeing in the post? Okay, so like if you're telling people to do extra clicks, you're losing sales. Like I would rather have a post that hits 500 people with a link in it than that are following me that would want to buy something versus going viral with 300,000 with no link in it. And what I don't get it. Like, that's just me. That's my point of view on this. So I don't want anyone to go, we can talk about the algorithm and stuff, but if you don't have to do this every time, but if you're trying to sell something, don't be afraid to throw a link in there, or at least in the replies, or
Yeah, two things. The link in the replies, I wanted to mention that doesn't hurt you with the algorithm. So if you're worried about reach, just make sure you post the link immediately after you hit the post. As for subscriptions, definitely don't take it personally. Pretty much every creator on here that, they've all been waiting like 18 months, except for brand new people like me that just applied 3 months ago. And that's totally on the platform. And I think it's, they're struggling with something between Apple, Google, fees, who knows, but it's definitely not you, it's the platform. Yeah, I think that was it.
yeah, fantastic. Yeah, that it's crazy. I think a lot of things get overthought on here. And if you really want to put your work out there, just put it out there, and the right people will find it. It may take a little longer, and if you want to hack their algorithm and all that stuff, that's okay too. I'm not discounting that, but I want people to not be discouraged about reaching those people. Yeah, Aura.
Oh, sorry, I'm on my phone. I hate doing spaces on the phone. Two more things I forgot. Shameless self-promotion. I have a space at 10 o'clock today called What the Cluck. We'll be talking about basics of AI for content creation, photos and whatnot. Probably mostly focused on ChatGPT unless somebody amazing comes and speaks on other things like Midjourney, and then how to run spaces. And then also, yeah, I have a subscription. It's $2 a month. Donate, support me and my family. Love you much.
Yes, shameless plugs. I love those. Everyone's encouraged to give a shameless plug. And yes, follow Aura. She's fantastic content creator on here, great community, doing great spaces. So yeah, I'll probably be listening for the short time that I have available later to her space. And we have Yvonne on stage. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. How are you?
Hey, 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 Kate. Oh my goodness. FYI, so I was just gonna listen because I have a background with Etsy and doing so many of the things that you guys are talking about, and I was like, dang it, I just have so many things to add value to. I gotta come up, even though I'm like on a time crunch. But also FYI, is X supposed to say pression in your title there? Is that supposed to say passion?
So it's expression.
Oh, okay, okay. I was like, "Oh my goodness. Okay, totally get it." OMG, so there's so many things that I have that I could share with what you guys were discussing. What an amazing conversation because Darby, I'm with you. Like, I mean, being an artist myself, like figuring out how to be able to sell things, like the starving artist is a real thing. Like it's a real thing in the acting world too. Like that's why I became an entrepreneur, so I didn't have to worry about struggling financially because I found that to be the gateway, and that's why I actually teach that to a lot of actors because they don't. A lot of actors, a lot of creative people, myself included in the past. Although I love business and finance, who knew, right? But a lot of them don't know anything about that kind of stuff. So that's literally what I'm doing on the platform here and in my own business is teaching fundamentals of becoming an entrepreneur, like if you want to sell things on Etsy and stuff like that. But before I ramble on with that, so OMG, um, you're saying that with Etsy, they're having a new thing where for any product that you have in the United States, and so I actually have that they're going to end up having free shipping for that. And the reason I'm pumped about this is because I sold wood wall art. I sold custom wood wall art that I hand carved and stained and all that jazz, assembled and everything myself. And I did very, very well. Actually, I had 5-star reviews. I had incredible clients and customers, and it was really fun. It's a huge experiment in learning how to scale your business, especially when you're an artist and you're creating original work. That's one of the challenges a lot of people have is how do I end up scaling this? And because my stuff was wood, it was so wicked heavy. So I used to do all kinds of different kinds of promotions to try to work around. I would build some of the Some of my pricing would be more expensive for certain products. I did actually ship to Canada. I had some people overseas that wanted shipping, but the cost was astronomical. So I've been through like the whole freaking shebang of that. And that's part of the reason why a lot of times people couldn't afford some of my products because I would do like free shipping. Like this is just like a little hack of some people, right? If you're doing something like that, because they were so freaking heavy. So, I mean, it'd be really expensive to ship them even for a smaller piece. So, if this is something that they're incorporating, that could be epic for artistic creators who have things like that that are heavier, bulky pieces. And one of the things I ended up doing there, and this is kind of like what you learn as you do businesses when you're doing some of your pricing to figure it out. I would actually incorporate the price, and this is just psychology of sales. I would actually incorporate the price. Say it was like $12 to ship something from Los Angeles to New York for one of the smaller pieces, and say it was a piece that was only like $78 or something like that. I would actually end up tacking that additional $12 onto the price of the piece and then do free shipping. And that's a psychology thing because it's kind of funny because even though it was incorporated into the price, people would be more apt to buy it because then you see the free shipping versus if I had the piece itself at a less expensive fee and then had the $12 shipping, it's essentially a blocker for people buying, right? It ends up becoming an obstacle. So there's all these psychology of sales things behind this stuff when you start really putting your products out there and you start learning how to scale. So is it even for like really big pieces? Like it doesn't matter how heavy it is. Like I feel like I need to read the fine print on that.
I know. I'm getting into it a little bit. They've talked about it, some of the things. I don't know. They haven't released like how much this is going to cost, like for the buyer or the shopper to purchase for the yearly membership or whatever. But it says you don't have to change anything to your listings. The Etsy will cover the cost to pay the full shipping fees. And so I wonder if they're going to add fine print to that, like as far as like the size of the item or the cost, the price of the item, maybe it'll be items under a certain price point. I don't know. So
Ooh,
this is
girl.
going to be evolving, and we'll see how it goes.
So you know what just came to me, and life is so fascinating, right? Like it's so fascinating because one of the startup companies I ended up working for was a startup company that actually did warehousing for smaller businesses. Essentially, they were like the shippers of different warehouses. That is basically what Amazon does. And so I learned a lot about that side of the business, even after my own business. So what it sounds to me like they're going to end up doing is essentially what Amazon does with Amazon Prime, where if you have a Prime membership, then if you are buying from, say, like a local buyer, like sometimes I'll buy certain reishi mushrooms from a mom and pop shop down in Florida, and they have their shipping on there. It's not within the Amazon Prime shipping. So there are different like little caveats to that, but it sounds to me like what they're going to be able to do is essentially what Amazon Prime is doing, where you get that annual membership and then they have like a drop shipping type site situation where you can have your product in stock there at different locations around the country so that then they're able to, because that's essentially what Amazon Prime does. And then they're able to offer that free shipping because they have that. That is amazing. I mean, that's going to be so epic for so many people. I mean, if it's like 119, I think that's what Amazon Prime is right now. It's like $119 annually. It's gone up from years ago, but still like the fees that you save on individual shipping like that is freaking epic. That's actually really brilliant with them. So what I'm guessing they ended up doing is they ended up partnering with I can't remember the terminology. It's like a for peer packing type service industry, kind of like that startup company that I ended up working for, where they have essentially their own warehouses and they're probably partnering with individual warehouse distributors like that so that they can have the same leverage that Amazon Prime has, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, I don't think I don't Etsy does not have the infrastructure for that. No, I see where you're going with this, and they could progress to that. But this is definitely, they're putting this all the work on the sellers. They will always do that. as far as like having to fulfill the orders. So they're just going to let these people, targeted shoppers, opt into this program, pay for the program, whatever the price is. Like you're saying, it's very similar to Amazon Prime, I imagine, $120 a year, whatever they decide the price to be. And then Etsy is going to just pay the seller the shipping cost or whatever. So the seller's still going to get that money, whatever the price would be with shipping. It's just the shopper's not paying for it. Etsy is. So that's the scheme they're doing.
Oh, yeah. They made a
Okay.
partnership. Yes. So that, oh my God, that makes perfect sense. So yeah, so even if you as an individual shop owner are still shipping it out, essentially you are going to get some form of additional reimbursement or something like that. So they've partnered with one of the a large I'm sorry, a large warehouse. Um,
No, I
um,
don't think that's it. I really don't, Yvonne. I think it's like, okay, so I sell my a plate for $40 and the shipping cost is $5.99. So the customer, if they were going to buy my plate, they would pay $45.99, right? That would be the total at the checkout, and that money goes to me, and I fulfill the order and ship it. So now Etsy is just going to, when the person goes to buy that plate, it's only going to cost the customer $40, but I, the seller, still get $45.99. Etsy is paying that $5.99. Does that make sense?
Oh my God, yes, yes, yes. Wow, that is so cool. I definitely am going to read the terms of service and the fine print on that. That could be a game changer for people, especially if you're starting up, right? Like if you have a smaller shop and you're just starting and you have like bigger products that are heavier, because like you said, man, those costs and those fees are freaking OMG. I mean, sometimes it ended up being like, $30 for some of my pieces because I was making really large pieces. So I would have like hand delivery in Los Angeles for a lot of the larger pieces, but you had to be local for stuff like that. That's amazing. I also wanted to mention because you guys talked about, or Darby, you were talking about X here. So FYI, by the way, and I love that little workaround hack. I know that the X team is working a lot in the background with the infrastructure of how they're building out the platform and what is ultimately going to end up happening. So this is another huge game changer. I don't know if a lot of people know. I've mentioned this on Adrian Spaces probably like 8 or 9 months ago or something, Adrian Dittman. But they're going to end up having part of the reason that they're doing where Elon is getting where they have X payments directly, like how he did with PayPal, and why they're getting that is part of what you had said, Oprah. I'm saying Oprah. I'm probably totally saying that wrong. Ora.
Bruh.
But Ora. That's beautiful. It's so fun. It's different. I dig that. So what they're going to ultimately end up doing is instead of because it is going to be the everything platform. So there are a couple of caveats to why that's happening is because he is going to have a marketplace on here on X. That is definitely going to be happening.
Love,
That's
love, love, love.
Right. So we will be able to have, like, if you have a store where you sell merchandise, and I do know that some creators, like you guys mentioned, are using that little hack workaround, but we are going to be able to sell products directly on here, even if it is a physical product. That's part of the reason why he's getting X payments and getting the approval across all the 50 states. Specifically for the United States, but also in regards to the subscriptions you guys talked about. I mean, I think I waited 9 months for not mine. I know have some of my friends that waited like a year, so it is a time process. And part of that is definitely because Apple with the iOS, like on mine, if you try to subscribe to me, the iOS is still not active if you're trying to do that from your mobile device. And part of the reason that they're having that blockage there is because then Apple gets 30% of whatever the creator put as their price point. So like mine is only $4, but I wouldn't get that full $4 if you subscribe to me through your iOS device. But if you do it on the website, then the creator gets the full $4. And I know that Elon wants all those funds. He doesn't want it to go to Apple. So that's part of the reason why there's the block, and also because he's going to be getting the X payments. But that's also part of the reason why there's a little bit of a delay with that. Yeah, so I just wanted to mention that that's part of the reason. And I also think now I don't know how they're going to do this going forward, but they also want to make sure that people are serious. They want really great content creators on here and really great products. So anybody could just open up and start something, but I think they want to make sure that you're the real deal, that you're not just coming here for like a couple of months and you're high on the adrenaline rush of starting something new. They want to make sure you're really here for long term and that they're serious people, which I kind of like that they have a little bit of that waiting period for that, because anyone who's really serious is going to be staying on the platform a lot longer. But yeah, so those are some of the things that are coming that they're building in the background. And that's part of the reason why he's getting the X payments, because then when the X payments get fully activated, then we're not going to have to go through Apple and iOS and all that. And then the creator keeps more of the money that people are contributing there.
Oh, so much good stuff in there, Yvonne. Thank you so much. Like there's these little tidbits and things going on that we all hear about in the rumor mills and spaces and from all the different people we talk to in the DMs and all this stuff. So it's just fun to get it all out there and share it with everybody. And if I want to just reset here just quickly, and then we'll get to you, Henny. Thanks so much for coming up on stage. I want to just let everyone know we do this every week. Darby had to step out for a moment, so I'm got the reins here. But if you are a creator, a maker, an artist, anything, we want to see your work. We want to hear your story. We want to see what you do. So please request to come up on stage, talk about it, introduce yourself. Let's see what the amazing people on X are making. I want to see it. And if you don't want to come up on stage, that's fine too. That's what the purple pill down below is for. So please share your work, share what you're doing. What are you up to lately? And tell us why we should follow you, because I want to see more amazing creations in my feed that people are making and putting out there. So if you're a hobbyist, a professional, or something in between, let me know. I'm excited to showcase you. And then also down below, you'll find the space I have created for next week. It is going to be at a different time, but it'll be on Thursday. So if you want a reminder for that, be sure to hit that button, the set reminder button. Okay, and Henny joined us on the stage and he posted a few things down below. So I'm going to give the mic to him and see what he's got to say about it.
Hi, Kate. Thank you so much. Yeah, you guys, what Yvonne just said just absolutely makes me, yeah, it gives hope, because as you mentioned, I just posted in the purple poll 3 links. So the first one is to my website, the other one is to my Instagram account, and the other one is to the X account for Dirty Miner Apparel. So what Dirty Miner Apparel is, probably around 2017, I made a deal with a TV show. So this TV show is called Gold Rush on Discovery Channel, to supply the guys with PPE, personal protective equipment. And I actually, so my brand was featured on this TV show. You'll see some of the guys on some of the clips, season 13 and 14 and 15, they actually have the apparel on. So I've got the trademark registered in South Africa, in Canada, and the US. And obviously, with South Africa being a much warmer climate, you know, and Canada being the really colder one out of the 3, it was really difficult for me to find consistent supply of material. So it was a Shopify structure. So obviously people would go online, they would order the apparel that they wanted, the hoodies or the t-shirts or the beanies or whatever, and it would get shipped all over the world. But the problem was they would obviously find the nearest drop ship, you know, fabricator or print shop. And then you get this inconsistency in the quality of the actual apparel that you're sending around the world. And then COVID hit, and that just completely ripped everything apart. I mean, paying $100 for a hoodie and $100 for shipping, also, you know, then obviously no one's going to buy a brand called Dirty Miner Apparel. It's not Nike or Reebok or Adidas or something like that. So bringing that to X, and then I don't want to take anybody off of the X platform, but if you do happen to go to the Instagram account, you'll see that I've got about 19,000 followers there. And that was just an organic growth. I mean, that was just people noticing the brand on TV and, starting to follow it and order. And at one point, I had a really good sales record. But it never picked up on X. I mean, there's like 300 followers on X. I just stopped promoting it because obviously that inconsistency in the quality of the dropship printing on demand was killing the business. So to land the plane, I really hope that X can sort of put almost like help desks or systems in place where you can pretty much, if I'm someone that wants to sell apparel, that there's a support system where they almost vet where you would drop ship. So if it's going to be a drop ship kind of setup, that they first vet it and then assist the creator to have a certain quality and standard through that system, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's so hard. I think X is so hard for brands in particular. I have an Etsy shop. I don't really talk about it. I have an account for it. It's on idle because it's very hard for brands on here to break through. And your point about Instagram, because you had that amazing marketing machine of being on television and people seeing you, when the average person wants to look up something, they're gonna be on Instagram, and it's just like, that's the truth, that if they're seeing something on TV and they're like, oh, that's a cool shirt, or that's a cool brand, or see it on Shark Tank or whatever it is, they're probably gonna either go to a website, which is number one. So having a good website that shows up in Google search is number one. But then if they're on social media, it's probably gonna be searching it out on Instagram. I think, I feel like that is the normal flow of the average person. And the problem I've been having with X recently for this is, if someone's on a phone and they're trying to get to X from a link, an outside link or anything, it doesn't work. You just get a screen that actually doesn't work. And so it's very hard to even bring people here and encourage them to come and see your stuff. So, I'm trying different strategies for that, because I feel like there's a lot of people I know in my life that would come over here, would dabble over here if they got a chance to listen to this space, for example. They would enjoy this experience and not have to live in fear of their feed, whatever that means. But so many great points there, Henny, as well, with the drop shipping inconsistencies, because I do a lot of drop shipping as well, and shipping all over the world is another thing. I'm so thankful I'm in the United States and I can just be like, okay, I'm just shipping to the US. That's all I'm doing. I don't want to deal with the rest of it because it's just so complicated and complex. And then, it's something taking a month to ship to another part of the world, and then it gets there and it's not good. It's like the quality's bad, and you're just like, oh my goodness, it's just, why do I have to deal with this for a $20 item as an individual? And then and Yvonne talked about earlier the cost of shipping and putting that into the pricing, so we can get into the pricing schemes of things too if we want to. I don't know, Henny, did you have more you wanted to add to that? I'll take that as a no, but that's all right. I just wanted to check back and make sure that I'm just not stealing the mic from people. But I do want to talk about the pricing that Yvonne brought up earlier, and then with drop shipping and stuff, Henny's kind of alluding to as well. When you're shipping items, heavy items too, and if Etsy is going to potentially cover those costs for a heavy item, I mean, there's a lot of things that I sell that I just don't even bother listing on Etsy, because yes, I want to build in that cost of the shipping for something expensive, like Yvonne was saying earlier, where it's like, okay, it costs $20 to ship something, when a person, even if it costs them $80 to buy the item, and they get to the cart and they see that $20 for shipping, that is a deterrent. The psychology of it is incredible. If the item costs $100 and the shipping's free, they will buy the item. So that is a consideration, especially for those higher priced items, I find. For lower priced items, I tend to let them pay the shipping, and because the margins on those is so low, it's like whatever. If I sell it, I do. I don't. But that's definitely a great strategy if you're selling higher priced items and items with a lot of a high shipping price. So that was a very good point I wanted to just bring back around. And if Etsy's going to be doing this thing with the Amazon Prime style of membership, which I'm surprised they haven't done before. I think it's I wasn't sure about it actually starting this conversation today, because I hadn't thought about much about it. But the way Yvonne Vaughn was talking about it, how people really do enjoy the Amazon Prime, even though they raise their prices, and it seems like they are putting less and less in that program. It's still, people still seem to really like it. So if Etsy can offer a value like that for people who use the platform, and then maybe this encourages also regular shopping there, which I think is a problem as well.
I think I think it's also too, like, I mean, so many people still think of it as Twitter. Like, unless you're actively using this platform the way that we are, like, we see the growth. And again, I see where Elon is going with all of the stuff that he's doing. I mean, I legit think that I mean, it is going to be the everything app, right? Like, I legit think that it's going to, I mean, you're going to end up being able to buy a freaking Tesla on the X app. I mean, that is coming. It is only a matter of time. So I think it's also part of the change in this, and the reason sometimes there's a little bit of drag, is because um, people aren't used to using this platform in that way. I mean, imagine when there are just been so many things that he's done to level the platform up. I mean, I didn't ever see this kind of video content before, of image content. It was mostly a lot of text. Now they're having where you can have hour-long videos. Like, I think it's actually up to 4 hours. You have where you can do things in 1080p. I don't think they have it where you can do it in 4K yet, but I know that that's coming. So there are just a lot of integrations of things, the way the platform is evolving, that is something that's going to take a little time for the general masses to realize, what it really is becoming. I mean, like, for example, some of the things that I think of to bring traffic here, in regards to physical products or anything like that, one of the things that I'm going to be doing with some of the stuff that I sell is, because I love X so much. I love everyone that I've met here and all the things that I've learned. And I just, again, I can see where the platform is going. I want to drive more traffic here because it's good for all of us, and it's good for the platform and for free speech. Is that you may be able to buy one of my products in other places, like even directly from my website, or say if it was something that I was selling on Etsy. But if you purchase it here through X, that I'm going to have like certain extra discounts, like a 10% discount or a 5% discount with an X code. Like, so that's another way. Like, if you have people going to your website, or have people going to other avenues off of the X platform, that's a little kind of like a little hack that I'm going to end up using, so that then, of course, I mean, who wouldn't want to come to the platform if oh, if you go through X, you can get, and you have an account there, you can get an extra 10% off. I mean, people are going to make that extra effort, and then it just drives more traffic here. And then they get to see what it's really all about. I mean, those are personally some of the things that I'm doing to get more traffic and more people on the platform, because people don't realize how amazing it is now and what it's really turning into and becoming. And I also wanted to mention, you guys, like when you were talking about the links, right? Like how it can deboost if you have a link directly in your post. But I'm sure you guys remember how Adrian had mentioned that if you then, underneath that initial post that you do, so you don't get that post deboosted, you can have the link in a comment. So you can reply to your own post and have a link down there, having a little bit more description about your products or your store, if you have places that are off site where you're selling it, so that then it doesn't deboost that initial post, and then people are still able to find it. And what you can do is, just in the first initial post, then you just say, look below, and for the website, or for where to purchase the product and things like that. But another thing that you can do is you can have a link tree. I'm just sharing this because some of you guys might know this, but for some people that don't, you could have your direct website on your profile, because a lot of people, when I mean, I've been doing this as I've been accelerating even more. I mean, like sometimes you can have over 5,000 views to your profile. You just never know who, even when you're replying to someone else, like another big account, and you're getting a little traction, and then people see your reply, then they'll go to your profile to check you out. And if you have your website on your profile, then that's a way to kind of have a workaround too. But if you have multiple products or multiple different websites that you're selling your product on, and you want to drive traffic there, and you don't want to just use your direct website, or maybe you have multiple different types of products that you sell, you can use something like a link tree, which is a one link that when people click that, then they'll see all the different types of things that you have to offer there. So that way, if you have multiple things, you're not just segregating it to only that one particular website, and you're not limiting yourself there. So I just want to throw that out there because it's a nice little hack.
Yeah, some fantastic hacks there. Um, I'm gonna come out as anti Linktree, but that's just me. That's just me. I think they work for a lot of people. They are better than nothing, is what I like to say, because I do websites a lot for people, content creators, all that kind of stuff. So my strategy is to just have a website with everything that you do on it and let people find it there. But yeah, if you don't have anything, yes, get a link tree. That's the very bare minimum I want for you to have. Absolutely. And then once you're ready, grow that into something that so people can find everything that you do in one place, and don't click a button and are taken away from it. No, we want them to click a button and still be able to see everything you do, so they can browse around and find it very easily. They don't have to search and hunt and seek it out. So, but I also, Yvonne, I want to talk about your little lead magnet idea with the special coupon on your X profile to help bring people from either your website or wherever they are, like, come here, get this extra special coupon code. You have to come here to get it. And then make them, you could even enhance it more by saying, if you reply, I'll DM you the code, or if you engage with the post somehow, like it or repost it, then I'll send you a DM. You know, that's obviously more work, especially if you're a big account. You've got a lot of people doing it, but that would be an interesting tactic, you know, for someone, a smaller seller or a brand trying to just get more people here to engage. Because I know I would rather have everyone here instead of having me like this morning trying, like, okay, I'm gonna post on Facebook. I don't know, I have one friend that would really enjoy this conversation. I know they would if they would just come over here, see if I can get them, you know. All this work for like one person. It's kind of hilarious.
Because I have that too. Like I've been like, I have friends of mine that'll send me, and look, and I'm not saying Instagram is not bad, and I'm all about diversifying, by the way. Like I'm all for X, and it's my favorite platform. But just like, let's go into like business mode, business head, right? You have to be smart. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. You do want to make sure that you are present on all the other platforms, because that's just smart business, right? So, but like I'll have people that send me that will send me like a lot of Instagram stuff, and I am like literally like everything that I send to everyone is from X. But it's been kind of fun because some of my friends who then weren't using the platform anymore, now I'm noticing this has been kind of a fun little experience to witness, because now I'm having, what's happened is at first they were sending me a bunch of Instagram things, and then or Facebook for that matter, right? And then I was always sending them X stuff. And what's happened is, and that's why Elon was so adamant about make sure that you share your posts with people off platform. Make sure, you know, that's like when you get a lot of higher engagement on your posts, it's because if you're sending your say you have 10 friends of yours or family members, and you're sending them one of your posts, each of them has a separate IP address, and that's only, and that's just with the Wi-Fi, but then they also have a different cellular ID, right? So what happens is when then they click on your link and they come back to X because they want to see it, it shows that you're bringing off platform traffic to your post, and that helps you get more amplification, get more reach, and it's just higher in the algorithm when you do that. What's been exciting doing that myself is at first, because sometimes I'm with you, Kate, man. Sometimes I was like, oh my gosh, this feels like pulling teeth, right? I'm like, why aren't you guys on here? It's so epic now, right? But I have found that when I send it and share with a lot of people now I've noticed this. It's been fascinating, fun to watch. Now I have the people that at first were only sending me Instagram, but because I kept sending them X, and then they are seeing some of the stuff that's being created on here, and I've driven them to the platform, now I'm seeing them sending me X links sometimes, and that has been super fun. And again, this is just us, like audience participation and content creators helping to bring more people to the platform, but it adding to that. But it's because it's kind of I mean, we're climbing up a mountain right now, right? So with Elon, it's very startup, even though it was formerly Twitter, and we still had all this audience base already here. But that's not going to be like that forever. That's the key thing to keep in mind, right? It's like, imagine people when they first were creating things on YouTube and they're like, what the heck is this YouTube thing? And first creators that were on there were trying to get people to go to YouTube or even Instagram and other sites like that. At first, there is a barrier to entry because it's a new thing, it's a change and stuff, and that's just a matter of the change of behavior with people, right? You have to, but then it just starts to happen automatically, and then people get excited about coming here to see things. That's what I've noticed.
Oh, I love that, Yvonne. Yeah, and I'm just going to do a little shameless plug for me here, because on Sunday evenings I do a little social media workshop, and I do it live because I don't know, I'm a live content creator. I don't like spending a lot of time. I do recorded videos and tutorials sometimes, but I'm just like, I just want to do it, get it out there, and move on to the next thing. And I know a lot of people are like that too. And so I encourage you to do live streams if you're like that, and spaces, of course, too. But then I talk about this because I'm not an algorithm expert. There's plenty of people on X here who do that really well, and I listen to them and I take their advice. But I do know whatever platform you decide is your main platform, and if it's X or if it's YouTube or wherever it is, it's going to be different for everybody. But whatever that is, if you're bringing people to that platform, there's nothing that algorithm likes more than that. Bring the people from an email list to your social media post. You bring people from the other platforms that you post on to the social media post or your profile or whatever. Bringing people, yes. And Yvonne got into like the technical details about why that is, but it's so valuable. So I want to just drive that home. And if you want to join me on Sundays for social media, like just goals for the week, Sunday evening, 7 p.m. is when I do a live stream. So people can check that out. I don't have the link for that, but I should probably post it down below. Anyway, we've got Christopher joined us up on stage. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Great. We've got a great space going here. Did you want to add anything to this conversation, or you?
Yeah. Yvonne mentioned being on all the platforms, and I would push back on that just a little bit. If there are a lot of platforms out there, and depending on what you're doing, you only have so much time. I mean, if you can automate that that makes sense. You have something where you can just put together a post and send it out to a bunch of different platforms. Yeah. I don't know. It for me, it gets harder and harder as I go along with like no traction in this platform or that platform. And I know that's an emotional thing, but at the same time, like it's also like me constantly using a thing that doesn't do what I would like it to do, and I'm not engaging with people, and it's not like it is on X. I'm not like I don't have like a ton of friends and people that I seek out as well that I'm interested in. Yeah, on other platforms it's just not the same. It seems almost cold out there, doesn't it? But yeah, so automation is the perfect response for that, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think having the accounts, like just establishing that you have these accounts, is important, because if you do blow up or whatever on one particular platform, at least you have that account and people can follow you wherever you find out. Because like Henny was talking about how his products were on TV, right? So you're reaching a mass audience. You don't know who's watching, what their preferred platform is. So if they just open up whatever their default app is for social media and search for your product, then what are they going to find? Are they going to find an account to follow? Are they going to find a post that's been there in the last year, or is it stale?
Hopefully
Yeah.
they don't find somebody pretending to be you also, because that's a thing.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
the key, I think.
You've got
Yeah,
that going
yeah.
on. I've got that going on. I don't know about anybody else up here. It's yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah, it's weird. You get any kind of growth whatsoever, all of a sudden spoof accounts appear because they know the value of this, because it doesn't mean that you have any value at this moment, but there is potential there to be able to, yeah, scam people. If you ever blow up or grow on something, people put in the search tab, just click the first one that they see, and it's the same picture, the same name, the same bio. So yeah, just that's one thing that I think is important. Every account, every platform that exists, at least get your name or your brand name, or if you have, like, if X is your main platform, whatever your handle is, your at, claim that everywhere. I think that's a smart idea, and at least you just have it and post something so it looks like you exist, and
I'd
then
like to
phone it
think
in.
that they
Yeah.
did it because they have value, and I'd like to think they did that for you because you have value.
Oh, that's sweet. I don't think so. I think they maybe see potential value. All right. I want to welcome some of the new listeners that have joined us. Thank you so much for coming. If you are making something, if you are creating something, you have something you want to share, you want to talk about what you're doing, if you make art, you create things, come on up on stage, share it with us. We want to see what you're doing. If you're not comfortable coming up and speaking, post it down in the purple pill below. That is the place to spam your stuff. I want to see it. And if you want me to bring up a question or talk about something that you're doing, I will do that as well. I will spam on your behalf. I think more people who make things need to put their stuff out there. And X is kind of a discouraging place to do that in a way. And I want to encourage people to do that here. So I can, because really it's all self-serving. I want to follow more artists. I want to follow more creators. I want to follow more makers. I want to see more of that in my feed. I curate my feed very specifically to things I enjoy. And so that's why I created this space, so I could find more people like the people who are listening right now. So I want to see what you do. And I'm sure other people here do as well. And last week I was like, oh, I'm going to bring something to share, and I didn't bring anything to share. So I have to take my own advice.
Oh my, do that all the freaking time. So like I mentioned that, Christopher, I just wanted to say, I love that you said that about the different platforms. I'm so glad that you pointed that out, because yeah, you do. I mean, what I was trying to say is that it's good to diversify, and you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, but at the same time, you definitely need automation, and you don't want to spread yourself too thin. And I love how you said, you got to really go where your audience is with the strengths of certain things. I mean, Henny, that's I know he's not in here anymore, but that's why, like, Instagram is an image first video, more even image first, I feel like, but definitely video first platform, kind of like how TikTok is. And it's just important to have it on different ones, but then, you don't want to have on like a freaking 100, because OMG, can that be freaking overwhelming? I mean, that's when you get into some of the stuff, like when you're doing social media posts, as you get, I mean, I post all my stuff natively here, usually in the moment, because I like the spontaneity and I like to feel the things when I'm creating them, but that's the artist in me. But then for some of my other things, like even other business accounts and stuff like that, I'll use automations like Hootsuite. I mean, they can be a little bit pricey because they're like 49 bucks a month, but there are other ones that you can use. Say if you're across 6 or 7 different social media platforms, depending on whatever it is that you're putting out there. It's that's just one of them. I can't think of another one offhand. You guys might know one, but it's a way for you to, essentially what you do is, say you create a post, like I just created an art post. I just posted it right now while we were in the space. I was editing it in the background to get it ready to post. And I'm only posting on X right now just because I'm so passionate about it. But from a business perspective, I myself, to make sure that I'm staying present on the other platforms, but especially for your business entity, right? Like it's using something like Hootsuite is a great way. Essentially, the post that I just made, if I put that in something like Hootsuite and I have all of my other social media feeds and places where I'm posting in that program, then when I post it to one, it will post it to all of them. And that is an incredible automation hack. And I know with AI coming out now too, and some of the people that we connect with and we do spaces with have they specifically teach how to do a lot of the AI automation for certain things like that, where you can still have your unique voice, but it just takes a lot of the minutia out of having to post in so many different places, especially if you're a solopreneur, so that you don't spread yourself too thin, because that can absolutely be a thing, especially as you're building. It can be overwhelming. I mean, I've gotten overwhelmed when I first started doing it and I didn't really know a whole lot, it can definitely be overwhelming. And that's why I love X and I love these spaces, because sometimes if you're doing that by yourself and you don't know, and entrepreneurs have this all the time, especially if you're a new entrepreneur or a new creator, wanting to pivot into monetizing some of the creations that you're doing. And not only are you having to learn all that new stuff, but then it's just a lot of things that you have to do. So some of those little hacks of like having something like Hootsuite, it can be a game changer, and the AI stuff is going to be amazing. Some of the guys that do the AI spaces, Kate, you know them, right? Like Christelle, that she does hers, Hindo, and Vladimir, and some of them, they know some of the AI hacks in their area that I don't even particularly know, right? So that's the great thing about community, because then we can learn and help each other with that, just to make life easier so you're not spread too thin.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, and the AI stuff we get into, and Christopher and I host a AI space. Quick little plug there as well. Like I'm all over this too. And and I enjoy watching what everyone else does, because there's so much going on. You can never know all of it, so you have to keep plugged in, listening to this stuff and everything. Christopher has hands up. We'll get to that, and then Yvonne, I have a question for you after that.
Yeah, I was just talking on automation. I haven't used Hootsuite. I know there's an app called If This Then That, and if you just Google ITTT, um, it's not like it's kind of like piecemeal kind of thing. Like you can automate specific things for specific websites. So there's a little bit of legwork involved, but you can set it up so that you do a hashtag on Twitter, or now X, and it'll pick it up and post it automatically to Instagram. The problem with that is that it's not optimized for the platform. You don't have like 10,000 hashtags like you should on Instagram. So I think that's where AI can probably help, so that you can fully automate that process with like an AI agent. That's like the first thing that's actually appealed to me for AI agents is, it's just watching your feed and then picks it up and optimizes the post for that kind of thing. But I haven't gotten into that, so I can't speak on that.
Oh, well, I'm going to just drop some bombs right now. So If Then Then That is a great tool. And I haven't used it in a while, but they did have AI integrated into it. So it could use AI to create the post, so it'd be different every time, or modify it. But what I use, I use Zapier, which is very similar. It's just like the high speed version of If Then Then That, and you can connect it to ChatGPT API, and it will write your posts in your voice. You give it the instructions and everything. It's pretty wild. I did that like a year ago for one of my accounts, and it's just on autopilot since then. I don't even remember. I probably should do a tutorial on that, because it's pretty wild.
Is that free?
No, that's the downside. Boo. Yeah, so you have to pay for Zapier, which is depending on how many times it runs. It's, I think it starts at like $30 a month. So, and then goes up from there depending on how many times it runs, and then you have to pay for the API, of course, with ChatGPT. But that is very minimal, especially when you're talking about a tweet. It's, not a cent, or if a cent each time. But I wanted to ask Yvonne about your AI art, because you just create such beautiful AI art. We all know that if you follow Yvonne, it's what she's creating, and she's doing some amazing things with music. But I want to talk about the art pieces here. And you were talking about earlier how you were selling framed artworks. Now, is that related to the AI art? Have you moved just to digital, or where are you with that?
Ooh, so fun question. Yeah. So the stuff that I sold with my art, I mean, all of my original canvases, I've donated some things to charity for some of my original canvases and sold some of my pieces to friends. But honestly, all of my canvas work like that, I've just always painted for myself. And it wasn't until I had my first art show outside of like family and friends that saw like my hundreds of canvases of all my paintings. I just did it always for me. Like I wasn't ever trying to sell anything. And I did have a lot of people that were like, "Oh my God, your stuff is so amazing. You should sell it." And then I remember I had an art show for this law firm I was working for back in New York. And it was, wow, that was a surreal experience because having a whole, like, gallery of all kinds of my pieces there and then getting the reactions from people, that was something, that's the first time I had had that experience. And anyway, so I did look into, doing, because again, it comes down to scaling with that kind of stuff, so I actually looked into getting professional photographs done of some of my original art pieces because the thing is, I love my pieces. I'm like, even if nobody else loves them, I love them. Like they're just, like magic to my eyes. And just even creating them and stuff. So I didn't ever want to sell my original pieces. So I did look into selling to getting prints of those done. And then there's like what is it? Fine Art America is a place where you can do that, where you can have prints done, but you just have to have high resolution photography done. And I looked into that a little bit, but again, I mean, I do it for me because I absolutely freaking love it. But I wasn't necessarily wanting to make money from that with everything I had to put in it because I'm an actor and producer and filmmaker first and foremost, even though I'm an artist. Anyway, so flash forward, one of the ways that I found to be able to do that with the stuff that I sold on Etsy, because again, it comes down to scaling, right? It really comes to scaling. And was I created wood wall art because I found it was interesting. I found certain patterns and designs of the centerpiece of the wood wall art were, say, like, and I did like very spiritual pieces. So say it was like a really beautiful Buddha that had like a flowered halo, but instead of it just being a painting, because I also noticed that it being a three-dimensional tangible object, other than just a print on canvas type of thing. And I love textured things. A lot of my paintings are very thick paint, or I'll have sand in them. I've done them with sequences. I've done like all kinds of things like that because I'm a very tactile, physical feel person when it comes to art. I love that stuff. And so I ended up creating some original designs, like say like that Buddha with the flower halo, and then was able to do to carve those. Like so, I originally created the first design, carved it, and then I actually went to a guy in Los Angeles. There's like the art district over there, and he had a laser printer. So I had him actually with the designs that I had, and it was almost kind of like tattoo art. Like the way that I did the style of it, I really like the black and white style. And I did essentially a tattoo style because I love tattoo art is really cool. Ironically, I don't have any tattoos, but I basically did that in a form of transferring that to wood wall art. And so I had these with the bare wood that was not stained, and that would be like essentially the white part of like the yin and yang, right? And then the darker stain color was essentially the dark part of the yin and yang. So it kind of has a tattoo type cool vibe, but very earthy. And so I hand carved a lot of that stuff. And in order to streamline it, I had multiple different sizes that I came up with for the background of the pieces because I didn't want it to just be square or rectangular. Also, what I would do is I would have the wood kind of catty cornered, so I didn't have it like a direct rectangular square. I want it to be even more artistic. Anyway, sorry, this is super detailed, but Anyway, and so
We
what
get
I
into
was
it here. This is perfect. Keep going.
Oh, cool, cool. Yeah, because I mean, it was a creative art space, so let's go there. What I was able to do is create custom sizes. I had like 5 different sizes of pieces, where I would create all of the backs of those pieces because I was able to do that, and they were the same over and over again as far as the back goes. But then I would individually, like I had a Dremel. I love power tools, by the way. Um, more than shoes. Let's just put that out there. And so I would hand carve certain little imperfections in the wood. So what I would do with the wood is I weathered the wood to make it look really old world style. But it was also part of the customization, and I did that by hand. And I was able to do those pretty quickly. But then what I would do is the piece that I would assemble on the top of it that was, say, like the Buddha designed, that I had a guy in downtown LA do the laser, like those big laser machines where they're able to cut that out. So I had that done with a laser, but I would still hand stain them and everything. And I mean, it's a whole production, like doing art like that custom, because I still wanted it to be custom, but then I needed to be able to streamline it. And if any of you guys have ever seen Marcus Lemon, Marcus Lemonis from The Prophet on, I think it's CNBC or MSN. Yeah, I think it's CNBC, right? Where they have, anyway, they have a lot of business shows on there, and I love that. And he was talking about artists. And one of the things that happens with artists is you create a lot of original pieces, but then how do you replicate that, right? How do you replicate that in a product line so that you're able to streamline it where you yourself are running the business and you don't have to necessarily hand create all of the art. So there's like a lot of that stuff that goes into it if you want to have a really profitable business and you want to be able to be able to streamline it, right? To have a lot of multiple different products and stuff. Anyway, so I sold that on Etsy. Those are some of the things that I've done. I ended up getting into the A art on X, which was totally like a fluke thing. And fell in love with it, and got new ideas for new paintings on here. And one of the things that I may end up doing, like I'm not saying for sure that I'm going to, is taking some of the AI art and having it at a higher resolution, because a lot of people do love it. Some of them that I love, aside from some of them that I'm probably going to end up painting on canvas myself. I just have not had the time, but I've gotten so many beautiful pieces from the AI art, and I'm like, oh my God, I need to paint that on a canvas. But those will only be original pieces that I'm going to do and probably end up selling like locally or something. But then I'm probably going to end up taking the AI art, which I know some people have, I believe some people have done, and have it as a higher resolution pixelization, because I don't want the quality of the piece to degrade when it's printed on canvas. And that's one of the challenges when you're doing some of the AI art, is that when you then blow it up, are you still going to have the same high resolution? And that's when you need an image upscaler to be able to do that. Have the image upscaler so that if someone wanted to have that particular AI art piece on, say, like a 36 by 36 canvas printed through something like Fine Art America or some of these other websites, where they're able to do that for you. So you yourself, once again, taking you out of the equation as the artist, where you don't have to be there to do all that work. That's what's great about some of those sites. I have not done that yet, but it's something that is kind of in the mix.
So good. So good. I hope you dabble with that, because I am always print your art, put it out there, make it physical art. And a lot of people I know are experimenting with these mixed mediums of taking AI art pieces, putting it into, tying it into whatever they were doing before, if it's painting or collage or whatever it is. And I see Rich Silver down there, who's a fantastic artist. He does a little bit of mixing up those styles, which is just so cool. And you mentioned a lot of things, so I'm just gonna say Marcus Lemonis. I'm so glad you brought up him, because he is a great account to follow here on X. And I wasn't following him, and I went and looked. I'm like, okay, I'm following him again, because he is actually got so much good info. And what he talks about with these small businesses and his show is so valuable for people who are even just doing, like you're saying, just making something and selling it on a small scale, which you still have to have some of this business sense, to be able to pull that off and not just be like wasting your time and not making any money at all. We want to make a little bit of money if you're going to do all this. So that was so great that you mentioned him. So I encourage everyone to look him up and follow him, because he's active on X and posts a lot of really great value. And then the other thing you brought up really early on was showing your art and what that changed for you too. We're talking about your paintings now, but I want to see like where this goes, because there is something to that where you show it, whether it is at a full-on gallery and like that's a whole vibe, or if it even is just like a local space. Like last week, Rich was talking about a local space in his area that showcases artists and artisans and things, or if it is just like the coffee shop down the street. I encourage people to do that. And I would experiment with that too, with AI art, printing it out and putting it in a space like that and showcasing it, because this is bringing something completely new to people that we see on X every day and we get exposed to and take for granted and maybe even laugh about it sometimes. But putting it out to people, I want to encourage that as well. Christopher, you have your hand up.
I would recommend for upscaling using Topaz Gigapixel AI. If you have already released your images, AI images, or any kind of images, that's a good option because it keeps the details very very close to the original. A lot of people are using Magnific, which is great, but it also adds details, so it may feel like a bit of a bait and switch if you were to release an art piece and somebody buys it and then there are details that weren't present in the original post. So just something to think about. Magnific is great, but if you're going to do that, you want to do that beforehand and not like after you release it.
Yeah, good point. I was playing around with some of these upscalers for my photography because I have lots of early photographs from digital that are like, yeah, I can print to maybe an 11 by 14, maybe, I'm really pushing it there. Photoshop does a really great job at upscaling these days. They've done a lot. There's a lot you can do with just that. And Magnifique, I didn't like because it makes up pixels like way too much. It gets a little bit too creative for me. I haven't checked them out recently. I don't know if they've changed to that. But yeah, that's a very good point that you're bringing up, Christopher, about like, okay, if you're creating the final piece, make sure your final piece is at the maximum scale that you want to print it at before you put it out there. Because yeah, these upscalers can get a little creative with what you do, and then also print it at the largest side too, so you know what the quality is, and see that for real. Because this printing stuff, yeah, boy, do I know how that can change. You see something on your screen, and then you see it on paper. You're like, whoa, 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 what is that? Colors, quality, details, blacks, all of that. It can get pretty technical pretty quickly, and anyone who's printed stuff absolutely knows that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, yeah, I was gonna say, and if you don't mind, I sent you a DM, but I'll just say here, do you mind if I share my most recent a couple art pieces that I just put out so people can see if I share it to the top of the nest there?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, because like with the Magnifica, I had used that as well, but like you were saying, Christopher, one of the things about that is sometimes you want the imperfections, right? Like when I've tweaked with certain things, I don't necessarily want it to be quote unquote picture perfect. Sometimes the imperfections are the things that make it beautiful, and that's the one thing that I have found with some of the upscalers why I was a little disappointed in that is I literally just want things to be sharper so that I can enlarge the image. I don't necessarily want it to do something different. And then sometimes it'll try to make something sharper where I intentionally like to have things out of focus. I like on purpose, like with some of the lighting and stuff like that, because that adds to the beauty of it, having that depth of field. And so I'll look into that other one that you mentioned, because that's definitely been one of the hurdles for me with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and one of the things that's great about Gigapixel, Topaz Gigapixel, is that you have sliders for sharpness versus blurring, and you can kind of dial it in, and it also has presets for art and photographic. So something to look into. You can play with it, and it's supposedly like uncapped as far as how large you can make it, but it does warn you that at a certain point it's going to top out in quality.
So I can't make that billboard. I wanted to.
You can. It warns you against it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's very cool. And the oh shoot, I lost what I was going to say. Yvonne, did you have something?
No, I just love that your brain went to Billboard, girl. I am all over that action. I didn't even think about that. That would be, sorry, I'm gonna curse. That would be bitchin', man, to have like one of your huge art pieces on a billboard. I am loving where your brain is going with that action.
Yeah, the side of a building or like behind one of those planes at the beach. That's my goal.
You put that shark picture that's up on the Jumbotron.
Yeah. Yeah, so cool. Oh right, there was one other I like have my note sheet here and it's complete chaos. But what was I gonna bring up? I'm just like trying seeking out my chaos notes here. So if anyone wants to jump in, please jump in. Oh, you mentioned the different sizes of pieces you produced, and I think that's something that is so valuable and that can help with price points as well for anyone who wants to sell something. If you're creating prints of artwork, have various sizes. I don't think you have to have 10 different sizes, but I think 3 is probably a good target minimum for different sizes to offer for something. And having something small that people can purchase for a small amount of money can just put your work out there in front of people, and then having the larger pieces available as well for those people who really want to fill up a space. And there's something to that where you show your art in a room, in a space. We talked about that a little bit earlier, having an art show or displaying it in a space. That sense of scale now becomes a reality, because if you see an 8x10, like on your nightstand, it looks pretty good next to a lamp for scale, but you put that up on a wall with nothing else on it, that's a little speck. And that's when we want the big 30x36 canvas Yvonne's describing. We want that to fill up that whole wall. So when you do a show and put it out there up and physically hang it and see it compared to each other and see it on a wall, that changes your perception of this stuff. So yeah.
Right? Like I always, when I was in New York, I loved to go to the Met, and I literally, one of the law firms that I worked at, I was right down the street from MoMA. So I had an annual membership to both of those, and I would go there all the time. And I'll never forget, like, speaking of sizes of pieces, Salvador Dali is one of my favorite artists ever. I absolutely love his brilliant, crazy, wild brain. And I remember the first time, like, I think it's the one that he has where he has the elephants with the super long legs walking on the beach, and all the intricate details that he has in his stuff. And I have one of the books that has like all of his work, because I just love him so much. And I will never forget the first time that when I was at the Met and I saw that in person, and because I'd only seen it in the book and I'd only seen like these blown up pictures of that painting, and the intricate detail that that man did in his pieces, OMG, mind bending stuff, like oh my gosh. And I will never forget when I saw one of those for the first time, and I was like, oh my God, it's so small. Like that was so wild to me, like how it was, like I had this whole because I actually created a piece that's called Dolly Inspired, where I created it's a black and white, really cool, just huge, large, cool figures, and I had them with legs. They were just weird, interesting shapes that I put windows in, and they were walking on a beach, and I had they were inanimate objects essentially, and then I added legs to them, and they were. It's one of my favorite pieces that I did because it was inspired by him, and I painted it pretty big. I think it may be 36 by 36 actually. And I did it because I had seen all the stuff from the book and thought his were really big. And then I saw it in the museum and I was like, oh my God, he had all that detail and that thing was so freaking small. Have you guys ever had an experience like that?
No.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. When you go to a museum and see these famous arts, like MoMA is such a beautiful place. Oh my God. Like I would go again if I was a little bit closer. I'm not too far. I could go, but these famous pieces, and you see them, and yeah, it's just like this little thing on the wall. It's mind blowing. And then the other ones that are like a large scale, larger than you imagined, and just in context in a museum is really good. And I want to encourage also everybody, because when you think about creating things, get inspired in the world, go see these things. I don't do it enough, certainly. And every local area has places of interest, arts and cultural places to go. So get inspired that way as well, for your work, if it's using AI or if it's creating in physical mediums. So I just want to add that. I'm always, I say these things out loud because I'm like, oh, I need to do that. So that's why I do it. I'm going to just say I'm going to be closing up the space at noon. Thanks so much for everyone for joining. We'll continue the discussion for a little bit longer, but if you're down below listening, you have something you want to share, please request the mic, come on up, share what you're doing, what you're creating, what you're making. I mean, it's so much fun talking to Yvonne about all this stuff, because this is like another side of Yvonne that maybe we didn't know about. I didn't know about a lot of what she's talking about, and she can offer so much value to people who are making things, and even though if she's not making the wall art that she was creating these days, she has so much knowledge from that experience of doing it that she can share with us. So it's just, thank you so much for coming up and talking about it. Really appreciate it. And down below in the purple pill, please share whatever you've been making. I put down there my link to I'm doing a live stream later at 1 p.m. where it's just a kind of an open Q&A. If anyone wants to come and check that out, it's a lot of fun. And some other things down there that I've posted that I'm up to. So if you want to follow me, follow the speakers up here. If you're not, these are great accounts. We've got 3 great speakers up here that will give you a lot of entertainment and value for your follow. For sure.
I don't know if that's a pretty high bar. I don't know if I can back that up.
You're the entertaining part.
Am I? Say more.
I think so. Creates amazing AI film. Amazing stuff. So usually he's a little bit more smug about it. I don't know.
I'm trying to be underground smug. Come on, work with me here.
Okay.
Oh my goodness, Chris, looked at your feed and I just gave you a follow. Oh my gosh, I love the thing that you just posted, that in my dreams I travel with Runway ML. How are you liking using Runway ML? Like, I had a friend of mine the other day who was talking about, he wasn't sure. Do you have like the $80 subscription model? I'm assuming so, since you have so many. Wow, these really look like film images, man. I love the grain that you have on them. Are you using the $80 program now that they've upgraded that to create a lot of content with that?
No, I'm using it's in the $30 range because it gives you a decent number of fast hours, but beyond that, you get like unlimited slow hours. So it works for me. It's not that much slower when you make the transition from fast hours to slow hours, and if you don't have a lot of money laying around, it's probably the only one you want to do. You don't want to go lower than that because you don't get the unlimited. But I've been using it since version 3 came out. So, a lot of experiments, a lot of messing with it to get it to do the right aesthetic that I'm looking for.
Yeah, I haven't played with it yet myself because I've been so busy doing other things, but I gotta dip in there. And the stuff that you're doing, I mean, it literally looks like films, which is, my cup of tea. I freaking love it, man. This stuff is gonna be such a game changer for independent creators who didn't have the big budgets before. That's one of the reasons why I'm so pro AI.
Yeah, it's really gonna democratize. I think it's already doing it, but it's also going to be a boon for established studios as well. They're already using it. They may not be talking about it publicly, but they're absolutely using it.
Yeah, Christopher produces some of the most amazing AI films. Okay, he's a feed to go through, dig into. He doesn't post a lot of fluff like I do, so my feed's a little bit more. You have to go into the highlights tab for sure if you get anything of value from me. But his feed, you gotta get in there, dig in there. Some amazing stuff that very, very cool. He's on the cutting edge of all this. He's downplaying what he does for sure. And he uses all the different AI video tools to make this stuff, and the music ones as well. He does some really, really good songs. So I'm going to be the promote of Christopher on this space. All right. So then I wanted to also ask, I just want to remind everybody, because I talked about this at the beginning of the space, was about the changes with Etsy, and that's what got Yvonne up here, and we got into it a little bit. But if you do sell on Etsy or think about selling on Etsy, you should look into the pinned post. We've got Yvonne and Christopher's pinned stuff up there, but scroll back to the beginning. You can find the Etsy post that I put up in the nest, and it's also down in the purple pill. So if this is something that you're thinking about doing or are currently doing or have in the past, you may want to look into this new program out that they're going to be starting in September. So look into that. Yeah, I think I'm going to probably wrap this up. Yvonne, thank you so much for coming up here and discussing. It's been so wonderful talking to you and learning the side of you.
Yes, thank you for having the space, and I love it. I know we're getting to know each other better. I absolutely love it. And girlfriend, man. So we should, like, after I dip into more, like, I'm so glad you shared the Etsy stuff. We should totally do a space sometime on Etsy and starting a business on Etsy, because I've been wanting to do that to help people who are creative or just wanting to start a business. It's a really great place to find your to kind of figure out your target audience, to test products in the market. Etsy is epic for that. Even if you end up not selling a lot there and you end up selling them separately, it's such a great place to do that. So if you're interested in that, that could be really fun, especially since I haven't met anyone else who's really talked about Etsy on the platform here. And I think it could be a game changer space, even for people who are just trying to make a little passive income, but don't even know how to start and stuff. Some of the tips and tools and things like that we could share, that could be really fun.
Oh, absolutely. This is something that I've been trying to do. And the e-commerce part of things is something that I do a lot of. And Etsy is such a low barrier to entry for people. The way it's set up, it's perfect for people who want to just like experiment, dabble, try it out, dip their toes in, all this stuff. And you can actually build a big business on it, with the strategies and, all the things of growth and all that. So I would absolutely love to do that. And that's kind of what I want to try and do with this space. But I want to expand that more, of course, into specialized spaces where something it's like, okay, that we're just going to talk about Etsy and we can get into it. And Phoenix, who is another person that we talk to a lot in spaces, she has tons of Etsy knowledge and has a whole story that she's gone through. She popped in here last week and told us about it. So definitely, absolutely, Yvonne, we'll connect on that. And Christopher, do you want to, I think I sold you to the crowd here, but is there anything else you got coming up that you want to share before we close up the space?
I'm going to be using Kling image to video for the first time here pretty soon. The next, probably today, I would say. So yeah, look out for that. First time using it.
Oh yeah, I've been seeing that floating around. I've been wondering about that. So that'll be cool to see what you come up with.
Yeah.
And Christopher and I host a space, and it's going to be a while till our next one. but you know, be on the lookout for that. That one's a fun, that's a little bit more casual, I guess we could say. It's a fun space. So thanks so much, everybody, for coming. So great to see everyone. And we had some great speakers today. Check out the replay if you popped in the middle. This was a value-packed space. You know, sometimes it gets to be like a struggle to try and keep the conversation moving, but there was a lot in here, and I'm going to have to go through some of my notes that I took during this because there's more to pull from this, between what Darby put in earlier, and Yvonne adding, because you guys talk about stuff and you just go on and on and on, which is amazing. It's so amazing because we get so much out of it, but each little piece, each little nugget, we have to get into because especially if someone's starting out or feeling nervous or not sure about if they're putting how to put themselves out there, we have to take these little things and like really break it down and explain it so that they can apply these things, you know, as far as like posting on X, getting inspired, creating new pieces, selling, putting themselves out there online, in person, reaching out to their local market, all this stuff. So that's what we're going to talk about here. Set a reminder for the space next week, which is down in the Purple Pill. Make sure you do that so you don't miss it. It's going to be at a new time. Just had to coordinate that with a schedule. So I hope to see you then. And thank you again